Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode. And in this episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something we haven't done before, is we are going to react to an article on Bleacher Report, 3 dream trade ideas for every NBA team this summer going into the offseason. I know it's still the playoffs, but the offseason is slowly approaching. Next thing you know, we're going to be at the draft lottery, the NBA draft, and the offseason is going to fully kick off right after that. But I think this is an interesting topic to go on. I'll have the link to this article on Bleacher Report in the description. But we're just going to be reacting, thinking about some of the moves and kind of getting us into that offseason mode of what teams are going to be looking to try to do this offseason. First, going into it, you have the cover, obviously, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But getting into the Atlanta Hawks. So, 3 of them I expected to be top, super dream, middle tier, kind of realistic. And then the other one's the last one's probably the most realistic in terms of the kind of players that I expect to see for these teams. The Atlanta Hawks, Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown is their top priority, top dream target. Great fit. Boston's looking to shut some cap. I don't know how willing they would be to trade somebody like Jaylen Brown in conference. So I think that's super interesting. Jaden McDaniels, I don't think he's going anywhere outside of Minnesota, but those 2 guys desperately would fit the need of the Atlanta Hawks and that kind of style. They're going in next to Trae Young, a 3-and-D kind of wing, and Jaden McDaniels, but Jaylen Brown could be a secondary option or first option on some nights for the Atlanta Hawks. Marcus Smart, though, is super interesting because the Atlanta Hawks haven't really had a guard next to Trae Young that they really trust defensively, being able to distribute and also hold his own defensively next to Trae Young. I think Marcus Smart could add a veteran kind of leadership aspect to this Atlanta Hawks team that I think they could use with all the young guys in Jalen Johnson, Risha Shea, Trae Young, still a relatively young guard in this league. So I think Marcus Smart, I wouldn't be mad at it. Contract-wise, they could go like Terrence Mann. Maybe they had an exception in there, maybe like Terrence Mann and another salary filler for Marcus Smart. I wouldn't be mad at it, even though I think Terrence Mann, he was really good for them in the back half of the year post-trade. Him and Georges Niang kind of came there, and I know it was Jalen Johnson got hurt, and the season kind of fell apart after that, but they played some good ball. I like Terrence Mann's fit there, but I do also like Marcus Smart there as well, so I don't think it's 3 bad options for the Atlanta Hawks in dream world. Boston Celtics. Financial relief being the number 1. Obviously, we've seen the reports, and Shams came out today actually saying that there are going to be trades. So I'm not going to be surprised as soon as the season ends and we get to the NBA draft, Boston's wheeling and dealing on draft night. Next will be Walker Kessler. Really good fit, I think, when you see Boston and the utilization of the double big. I think Walker Kessler would be a great fit, but Danny Ainge has ties to Boston. How willing are they going to be willing to trade with each other? And, what is the price on Walker Kessler, right? I think it's so interesting because Walker Kessler, yes, is a good player. He kind of fits what Utah's doing in their timeline, but they've also had him on the market forever, it seems like. So what is the price? Mark Williams from the Hornets, that would be super interesting because you're taking a risk there. But if you're Charlotte and kind of need and want to go into kind of a direction where you want to be the Detroit Pistons of this year, next year, maybe you take that risk on getting a Drew Holiday in the room next to a LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller and possibly a VJ Edgecombe. I just did a Charlotte Hornets rebuild that's going to be out before this video is out, so go check that out. I kind of did something like that where I didn't send Mark Williams to the Celtics, but I got the Hornets Drew Holiday and something like that. They can make a package like that work for those guys. I don't think these are bad options for the Celtics. $22.7 million over the second apron. They're going to be wheeling and dealing this offseason from reports. Brooklyn Nets, Jonathan Kuminga. Interesting, we've been seeing Jonathan Kuminga could be involved in a sign and trade this offseason. Brooklyn Nets have a ton of cap space and maybe some guys that maybe fit the Warriors better, like a Cam Johnson. Maybe they can get D'Anthony Melton back. I know he ended up on there because of the injury, but he was really good for the Warriors to start the year. Maybe they can go in that direction in some sort of sign and trade. Kind of thinking about the same with a Jabari Smith Jr. if the Nets were able to help facilitate some kind of Kevin Durant trade. I've seen rumors of Jabari Smith could go to Brooklyn. I've seen kind of mock trades about all that as well. Rob Dillingham from Minnesota. That's interesting. I like that because I think Rob Dillingham deserves the chance to kind of be in a situation where he can really spread his wings because he is a phenomenal offensive talent. But I don't know if it's going to be in Minnesota. Minnesota's an interesting place because I do like this dream pickup and them getting Rob Dillingham, but it's like they traded up to get Rob Dillingham. You know what I mean? It's not like they drafted Rob Dillingham at the back half of the first round. They traded up and gave a future draft capital for Rob Dillingham. So that makes me think Rob Dillingham is for sure in their future plans there in Minnesota. And Mike Conley's getting up there in age. So maybe we see a lot more Rob Dillingham next season. But not three bad dream options for the Brooklyn Nets. Like I said, every position, have cap space, $62 million, even with Cam Thomas on the cap hold. Who knows what they're going to do with him as well. Charlotte Hornets, Trey Murphy III, Pelicans. This would be a dream. This would be phenomenal. How do they get there? I don't know what the Hornets have that the Pelicans would want outside of Mark Williams, but they would have to give up Mark Williams and some, because I know Trey Murphy did get extended, if I'm not mistaken. Anthony Simons, depending on what you do with LaMelo Ball, do you trust Anthony Simons and LaMelo Ball in that backcourt if you're putting Anthony Simons at the 2? You also have a draft pick, so I would love if they went VJ Edgecombe. Then you bring in Anthony Simons. Now, offensively, you'd be having a lot of firepower with LaMelo Ball, Anthony Simons. I don't love that defensively. Walker Kessler, more reliable option outside of Mark Williams. That's all I really got to say about that. Chicago Bulls, Jared Allen, very interesting because of how the Cavs lost this year in the playoffs. Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. Maybe they're ready to transition Evan Mobley to the 5. This would be a great landing spot. I don't know how it's difficult because, like, for a team like Cleveland that's really wanting to compete, do they really want to send somebody of Jared Allen's caliber to an Eastern Conference team to help them improve? So it's going to be interesting. Jared Allen, I really like the fit there in Chicago. They just need big man play in general. Mark Williams, another name that I'm probably going to see on here another 15 times. And then Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford's interesting because I do think Daniel Gafford has high potential to get moved if there's anybody to get moved on the Dallas Mavericks. So I really like to see Daniel Gafford on here. 3 great fits. I would love to see all of these guys on the Bulls. Now it's the Cavs. So you have Giannis on here. Giannis, Dorian Finney-Smith, Isaiah Stewart. I like the Isaiah Stewart fit, but I think he means too much to what they're building and doing in Detroit that I would hate to see him leave there. Dorian Finney-Smith, he kind of means a little bit too much to what the Lakers are doing just because him and Luka do have a really good connection. Don't want to go ahead and trade Dorian Finney-Smith, have to trade for, you know what I'm saying. Giannis is interesting. I don't think Giannis gets moved unless he comes out and says that he wants to get moved. That's the whole point here. Unless he comes out and asks for a trade, if you're the Bucks, you have no real reason to trade him. That's the whole thing. So I think they're going to go into a route of we're just going to keep him. I think that's kind of the Bucks mindset going into this offseason. So what they would do is probably Jared Allen and Darius Garland. If you're the Cavs, it's like now you're rolling with Mobley, D, Mitch, and Giannis. Not bad. You would have to... That would probably make you a second apron team because Mobley's going to get extension or he gets his contract goes up a lot higher because he won D-Port or something like that, something I read. So, interesting. A lot would have to happen for the Cavs to end up with somebody like Giannis. A lot would have to happen. But it is a dream world. Dallas Mavericks. Okay. 3 interesting ones. Obviously, Kevin Durant, that's already been rumored. That's already been out there in circles and rumors as well, so we'll gloss over that. They have to give up a lot to this, like P.J. Washington, Klay Thompson, Daniel Gafford. Like, they're gutting their team for somebody like Kevin Durant, older for 1 year. And you already have Kyrie Irving hurt going into next year. AD has injury problems. I don't love that fit with Kevin Durant going to Dallas. Derek White would be something. Derek White would be perfect. He'd be perfect. And you're adding Cooper Flag. The only problem is I know the Celtics are going to have a high price on Derek White, but the only thing that makes me think differently is they were already going into this offseason wanting to shed cap, but then the Jason Tatum injury happened, and you're like, like what direction or how much cap or what the outlook of the team is going to look like now that they know Jason Tatum's probably going to be out for the next calendar year. So it's looking like I love that fit. How they get there? Do they talk about how they get there at all? Landing number 1 overall pick. You would have Cooper Flag, AD, Kyrie, bring in Durant, role model for Flag. Yep. White and Simons are both combo guards who would begin the year at the point guard while injuries recover. So Anthony Simons a lot easier of a player to get than Derek White. I think Derek White fits better because he's a way better defender than Anthony Simons, and I think he would be able to fit perfectly next to Kyrie Irving. Interesting how they get there, what they would have to give up draft capital-wise. I know they're kind of already loose on draft capital. Interested to see how they would get to Derek White, but I kind of like the Anthony Simons pick, depending on what they have to give up. Denver Nuggets. Don't connect. Ooh. I was expecting a little bit more, some bigger names for Denver. Don't connect. Shooting, spacing. I feel like you can already just get that out of Julian Strawther. Develop him a little bit more. Royce O'Neal from the Suns. I hate that Royce O'Neal contract. Older. I guess gives you more shooting and defense on the wing. Keon Ellis would be a good upgrade. He would be phenomenal for them. Because he's somebody that can play next to Jamal Murray, but getting there, you don't know what the direction of the Sacramento Kings is. Like if you were able to move Michael Porter Jr. for like Keon Ellis and something, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I love Keon Ellis. I don't really... Man, I thought Denver was going to have a little bit more heat than this. I don't really like those two. Try to make another run at Charlotte Kevin Durant this offseason, although Nikola Jokic seems to prefer this team to fill out its bench instead. Okay, I see the route they're going. 3-and-D wing, 40% from 3. Keon Ellis, great two-way ability. I understand both sides. Detroit Pistons. That's the one. If you're the Detroit Pistons fan watching this video, I think it's time to pull the trigger on something like this. Now, you're not getting Devin Booker. I can promise you're not getting Devin Booker. One, you don't have the young talent, and you're not trading Cade Cunningham. They're not moving Devin Booker. Drew Holiday, though. Drew Holiday, Asar Thompson. Love that tandem on the wing next to Cade Cunningham defensively. That puts you in a top-tier team defensively on the perimeter with Asar, Ron Holland, Drew Holiday. I like the sound of that kind of tandem that they could have. And they would be able to get him kind of for the low. Maybe it would be like Tobias Harris on expiring for Drew Holiday. You just kind of eat those 2 years, which I think he'd be really, really good as a vet for this team going forward. Cam Johnson in Brooklyn. I don't know if they have the money. To do this. But if there's a way you can get Drew Holiday and Cam Johnson, we're looking at the Detroit Pistons as a team that can come out of the East next year. I think these are two great dream options. I would see if you could get both. Because I'm scared if you pay Malik Beasley a ton of money. He was great for you last season, but I'm scared of the role player plays really, really good 1 year. You overpay him and it turns into a bad contract. Duncan Robinson kind of contract, right? So I think this is super interesting. Man, I love the Drew Holiday to Detroit. I've been seeing more and more of that as I've kind of dug in more research on what teams could be looking to do this offseason and rumors and everything like that. I love the Drew Holiday. Fuck, I try to get both of them. I'd be greedy. I try to get both of them. Because if you add the shooting of Cam Johnson and the defense and the IQ of Drew Holiday, you'd be looking, especially with the Boston Celtics about to have a down year in the East. Hey, now, Detroit could be on the come up for real. But Devin Booker, get out of here. Stop it. Golden State. How are we getting to Sabonis? Right? Now, the offensive potential of adding Sabonis to what the Golden State Warriors already do from a playmaking aspect and him able to be a threat on the glass, him paired up with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler defensively, I think would help him out a ton. How did they get there? Before I get into Derek White, Kobe White, so I'm going to be the perfect third star for the Golden State Warriors, even if it meant trading Draymond Green in order to get him. No. I don't think they do that. Because I think it leaves too much of a hole defensively. Now, if you found a way to get Sabonis while keeping Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, then we talk. But I think having Sabonis leaves you vulnerable defensively. We've seen what Draymond Green has been able to do and carry this team defensively for years now. I think that would leave a big hole in the team. Especially at this point, you just got to finish it out with Draymond. I think at this point, trading him, getting desperate for a deal like this where more lateral than you would think, not from a box score perspective, from an impact perspective. I think this is a big lateral move. But if you got Draymond Green and Sabonis, that's your front court, then we talk. Derek White, kind of like the Mavericks, is like, how do you get there? Are you willing to do a sign and trade with Jonathan Kuminga to the Celtics? Derek White's making about 29, 32, somewhere in that realm, million a year. Don't hate that idea, because I think Derek White in the Warriors system, with his ability to shoot the ball and defend, next to Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, like I said, it kind of puts them at another level, kind of what I was talking about with the Mavs. Most realistic, I think, is definitely Kobe White, because you're going to have to pay him. I think the Bulls would be interested in a sign and trade with Jonathan Kuminga. I don't know if the Celtics would be because they're trying to check. It's interesting. I got to see what kind of trades they're trying to do. Are they trying to do salary dump trades, or are they trying to also do trades that bring in talent but on better contracts, like the Drew Holiday? Maybe you trade Drew Holiday for Tobias because Tobias is on expiring. Shit like that. Like, Derek White is an interesting name on here, but I just don't see them moving Derek White. Kobe White, interesting, because they're probably going to end up paying Josh Giddey. They're probably going to pay Josh Giddey. I don't think they have a choice to not pay Josh Giddey. So Kobe White could net them a pretty good return. I just don't. Perfect third star for Golden State, even if it meant trading Draymond Green. I just think if you're the Warriors, you got to just ride it out with Draymond, Curry, Steve Kerr, Jimmy Butler. Try to go get pieces around, because in my opinion, if Curry doesn't get hurt, they're probably playing OKC in the conference finals right now. Houston Rockets, obviously, wow, okay. Giannis, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. All three of them. Not even a small role player that could help this team out. I've made a video talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Bucks, and to the Rockets. It's just, I don't like the spacing fit there. Devin Booker, I just don't think you're getting Devin Booker. I don't care what you could throw Phoenix Suns' way. They're owning picks back. They're just not trading Devin Booker. Kevin Durant. For what you could give up, I'm not mad at the idea. Because Kevin Durant can be a go-to scorer. You're pairing him up with next to Sengun and defensive weapons around him. How do you get there? Are you trading Fred VanVleet? Do you trade Jalen Green? The Phoenix finds a third team to take on Jalen Green. Jabari Smith Jr. would probably go to Phoenix. So this is interesting. Booker and Durant will be linked to the Rockets as Houston owns the Suns' first-round picks in 2025 and 2027. So that's kind of the process behind this trade in the Houston Rockets. I think it's very, very interesting. I think Kevin Durant's the best fit because I don't think they're getting Devin Booker. I like Giannis because Giannis is just a top 3 to 5 player in the world, but that spacing will be horrendous. Indiana Pacers. Adding some more size. Obviously, Isaiah Jackson's injury sucks, and James Wiseman injuries also suck because I felt they had really good rotational pieces with athletic bigs with how they play up and down. Mark Williams, Jonas Valanciunas, I don't really love that fit there because I think they need guys that can run and gun. Nick Richards could be somebody. Mark Williams, I like both those fits, former Hornets guys. And it looks like Mark Williams is just going to get traded. We're probably going to see Mark Williams another, 5 times. Clippers, love Colin Sexton. Love this fit. They need somebody to increase the pace. They need somebody to, because this team plays so slow. When you look at their series against Denver, which they were right there to win it. But Colin Sexton is somebody, and they're all Utah Jazz players. This is crazy. All Utah Jazz players. Is there a reason it's all Utah Jazz players? All different timelines, varying different skill sets. Clarkson gives them a more... You already have Norman Powell. I think no to Clarkson. Keontae George and Colin Sexton are the guys that, if you can, I would be all over it. So this year, James Harden can become a free agent and will turn 36 in August, meaning the Clippers would have Wise to monitor his minutes the 11th time. Okay, so they're looking for a guy that can come in and help James Harden with shot creation, running the show. I like Colin Sexton because I think you can get him for cheaper than somebody like a Keontae George. I think you have to throw in future draft capital, and the Clippers don't really have that much draft capital to just go give. So I really like Colin Sexton because I think he's cheap. They can make the money work. They have some bigger contracts on that roster over there in LA. I think Colin Sexton would really help increase them offensively because there's times where it's like they get into kind of ruts offensively. If you tuned into a lot of that Denver series, there's just times where that offense is just so sluggish. LA Lakers, big man, obviously. Jared Allen. I also saw like a kind of a mock kind of trade. It was like Rui and Austin Reeves for Jared Allen because his contract goes to like 30 something million. So they could be looking to move him this offseason. I think the year after this year goes up 30 million. Walker Kessler, like I said, what's the price on Walker Kessler? I've heard it's 3 first-round picks, 2 first-round picks, young talent, and draft capital. So it's like crazy. Nick Claxton, how do they get there financially? He's making like 23, 24, 25 million a year. So how do they get there financially? So they need to add some size. Any of these guys would be great options. I think Jared Allen would be a home run pickup if they were to get him. Claxton's probably going to be easier to get because Brooklyn's kind of, there's no mainstays in Brooklyn. So they could do whatever. Memphis. Okay. Jaylen Brown. So I'm assuming this would be like a Jaylen Brown Desmond Bane swap to make money work. Jaylen Brown is somebody that fits anywhere on any team with his skill set, but it's just what direction is Boston going into? Like I said earlier, Sabonis next to Triple J, I'm assuming. So how does it say how they get there? If Brown isn't attainable, Memphis could look to upgrading the center position over Zach Edey. Former Purdue star rookie season, all the Grizzlies should be trying to compete for titles immediately. Sabonis would be the perfect offensive complement next to Jaren Jackson Jr., or adding Jared Allen would give the Grizzlies 2 elite rim protectors anchoring their defense. Man, I kind of like the Sabonis one because I feel like this team outside of John Morant doesn't have the downhill creation, and Sabonis can be more of a hub offensively, but it depends on what direction the Kings want to go in. Will they be willing to trade Sabonis in conference, and what kind of direction are the Kings going in if they do trade Sabonis? So Jared Allen would be – how would they get there with Jared Allen? And what would the Cavs want from the Grizzlies? Because you don't want Desmond Bane. That makes you super small, your guard spots. Like, you don't need Desmond Bane. You have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. So, it's interesting. I think the Sabonis one is actually the most realistic one because it's like, if you're the Cavs, what do you want from the Grizzlies, realistically? It's not like they have, they just don't have anything. They don't have a single thing on that roster that, if I'm Cleveland, I desperately need and I'm trading Jared Allen for. But Sabonis would be fun. Miami Heat, Kevin Durant. I think the Miami Heat just need to go into a full rebuild. Because at this point, yes, the door is open in the Eastern Conference going into next year. But I think they are so far behind to where even adding Kevin Durant, and what are you giving up to get Kevin Durant? It's like Andrew Wiggins, Duncan Robinson. You don't have that much draft capital to shed their way. Like, does that get it done for Kevin Durant? Who knows? I don't know. I think a lot of people are saying that Kevin Durant is either going to go for a lot or for a little. But still Kevin Durant. He's going to go for something. You got to give to get in this league. I just don't think the Miami Heat, even if they got Kevin Durant, so it's like, Tyler Hero, Bam, and KD. Because you're probably going to have to trade Wiggins to make the money work, unless you can get, unless you're giving Phoenix, Roy Zier, bad contract, Duncan Robinson, bad contract. Maybe you get there. Maybe you got to throw in Jaime Jaquez. Maybe you're willing to do that. And if you're Phoenix, you're like, we need at least 2 first-rounders from you. You don't really have that to give. So, KD, I just don't think makes a lot of sense for the Miami Heat. They need to just fully go into a rebuild. Trae Young, I just don't think they're moving Trae Young, especially after what it did look like with Jalen Johnson being the number 2 and what they could possibly add this offseason to improve this roster. Trey Murphy, these options are what are you giving up? You know what I mean? Are you giving up Kello Ware? And he can kind of be that perfect fitting center next to Zion? I wouldn't even really want to give up Kello Ware. Because I think Bam experimenting and growing Bam at the 4 is a thing. But, if you're getting Trey Murphy, but, if you trade Kello Ware, your young asset, that is the only thing the Pelicans, I think, would want. It's where are you going? Trey Murphy is a good player, but I don't think he's pushing you to, he's not going to have the same kind of impact like a Kevin Durant, obviously, but it's just if I'm saying Kevin Durant, I don't think is moving the needle for you in the Eastern Conference, even in a down year for the Eastern Conference next year, which is what we might be going into. I know Trey Murphy ain't. You know what I mean? And they're just not getting Trae Young. So the Miami Heat just going to a rebuild. Just wrap it up, going to a rebuild. What are we doing? Okay. If the Milwaukee Bucks make a painful choice to put Giannis Antetokounmpo on the market, there should be a clear list of players which they most want in return, assuming number one selection Cooper Flag is off the table from the Dallas Mavericks. Bucks could convert to Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year, 23 years old. I just don't think they're moving Evan Mobley. Has much I think it would move the needle to have Giannis over Mobley at this current point in time for the Cavs. I just don't think they're moving him. And if you're the Bucks, number 2 overall pick from the Spurs, that's more realistic for sure because I think Giannis fits in San Antonio better than Cleveland. Just because the Spurs are going to want to get him. I don't know if the Cavs are going to want to give up Mobley. They'd rather give up Garland and Allen before they give up Mobley. Alfred Sengun, that would be the Giannis to the Rockets swap. Good building block to build around. He would be a fun player to build around there in Milwaukee. But if I'm the Bucks, I'm thinking number 2, I'm thinking Dylan Harper. And we're building around that. And we're getting possibly Devin Vassell, possibly a Jeremy Shohan. I think the Spurs have probably the best package because they have the number 2 overall pick, Alfred Sengun, great young player, great young talent. But I think I'd rather have Dylan Harper and some younger guys from the Spurs, in my opinion. And the Cavs giving up Evan Mobley, I just don't think it's going to happen. Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, Kevin Durant have ties there. Even last year, they tried to get him at the deadline last year. It didn't happen. Zion. Really? Let me see what they have on Zion. Mike Conley going into his prime. Rob Dillingham not ready to be a consistent rotational piece. White will be the bridge gap between both players, giving the Wolves a two-way star point guard next to Edwards. I'd love the fit. I mean, the fit would be, oh my God. Now you're looking at, depending on how you would get there, it's like Derek White, Anthony Edwards, DiVincenzo, and Nikhil Alexander-Walker, if they're able to bring him back in that kind of guard rotation, and you still have Rob Dillingham. In a Derek White trade, I think you give up Rob Dillingham, right? Let me know in the comments. I think the Boston Celtics would want somebody like Rob Dillingham in place for Derek White. Derek White's a very valuable player. He's the perfect role player. He might be the best role player in the league. So, already pushed the trade, try to get Kevin Durant. Zion, I guess, if the Wolves can't get past Oklahoma City Thunder, they need to raise their offensive ceiling with Williams and Edwards together. How are you getting to Zion Williamson? Are they taking Julius Randle? Julius Randle's been good for you. I don't really know the Zion one. If you're getting Zion, Zion and Rudy Gobert just sounds like a terrible idea for me. Pelicans, Cam Johnson, Anthony Simons, Jared Allen. Cam Johnson would be a good fit for some spacing. Him, Trey Murphy on the wings would be great. Anthony Simons, they're going to need to kind of bridge the gap between DeJounte Murray's injury. What are they going to do with CJ McCollum going into this offseason? Jared Allen. This would be interesting because the Pelicans actually have things that the Cavs would want, unlike Memphis when you saw Jared Allen mentioned to go there as well. So I'm thinking of Trey Murphy. I'm thinking of Herb Jones for somebody like Jared Allen to pair up with next to Zion Williamson, get super athletic in that front court. But the only two guys that would make sense is Trey Murphy or Herb Jones. Which one would you want to give up? You got to give to get in the league. I like all these fits for the Pelicans, though. New York Knicks, Keon Ellis would be a home run. His defense, I just made an entire video talking about Game 4 of Pacers-Knicks. They need to add some sort of defense on this team outside of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Keon Ellis would be a home run pick. Julian Champagnie, interesting one. He's somebody that can give them a stretch floor with some spacing ability. Keontae George. Just how do you get to Keontae George, right? What's the value on Keontae George over there in Utah? So, interested to see where they go in the draft, which might open some doors for them possibly moving Keontae George. But I don't know. Zach Collier came in last year, who was a steal for them in the draft, and made some things happen late in the year. So, interested to see what direction Utah goes this offseason. Like all these fits, though. OKC Thunder. Really? Giannis, obviously, they probably have the best package to get anybody in the league at the moment with the draft capital and young talent. Anything less than the championship would be a disappointment for the Oklahoma City Thunder. If they win a title, don't expect any big moves this summer. Should they fall short, all options are on the table with that treasure chest of draft picks, and young talent. Big prize, likely cost Thunder, Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren, or both for Giannis. things would have to go historically bad. Like they'd have to they're up 3-1 on the Wolves right now. Pacers are up 3-1 on the Knicks. If they met the Pacers, it would take the Pacers like sweeping the Thunder for them to think about giving up both. I think that's crazy. Zion's interesting because it's like, what is the price on Zion? How high is the price? Because they have the non-guarantees in his contract. It's like, maybe you can get Zion on the low. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe you can get Zion on the low. That would be fun. That would be super, super fun. For maybe like a year until their second apron comes in and like fucks all that shit up. But for a year, it'd be fun. Sabonis, rather just keep Hartenstein. Orlando Magic, Trae Young. Don't think Trae Young's going anywhere. LaMelo Ball. What direction do the Charlotte Hornets go in? They're just all over the place right now. They could move LaMelo Ball. That would be if the Orlando Magic got LaMelo Ball and his offensive talent. We're talking about the Orlando Magic making a deep playoff push next year. Pairing him up with Franz and Paulo and that defensive identity and culture they already have, that would be a home run pick. How do you get there? And are the Charlotte Hornets willing to move LaMelo Ball? Going forward, maybe they pivot and say, Brandon Miller's our guy. We don't need LaMelo Ball anymore. Darius Garland. I don't think the Cavs do this and trade Darius Garland in conference when they're trying to compete for a championship. And having him go to a team that gave you trouble already in the playoffs before. I think it's a long shot. Philadelphia 76ers. Jaylen Brown. I don't think they're getting that desperate to trade Jaylen Brown to Philly. No. Boston's not doing that. Stop it. Big dream. Big time dream right here for the Philadelphia 76ers. Cam Johnson. I like that. Think Kelly Oubre and Andre Drummond get you there if I was messing around with the trade machine. Don't connect. Gives you some more spacing. Not mad at that, but it's just like, don't connect. I don't think it moves the needle that much for you. Cam Johnson moves the needle. Phoenix Suns. Okay. So you're assuming Bradley Beal for Paul George. I just don't want that contract. I think you just got to ride it out with Bradley Beal. It's just, I don't think the Paul George contract's worth it. Yes, you could get a better fitting team with Paul George instead of Bradley Beal just because Paul George plays a different position. But it's just like, that Paul George contract, man. I do think him and Devin Booker would be a better fit. I do think George, Booker, and Durant, if they were to keep Durant, would be a way better fit. But it's just like, how does Philly feel about that? Because I damn near just think Philly would just rather keep Paul George too. Because then you're adding Bradley Beal. It's expiring, so they would just hop all over just because of the expiring. But then it's like McCain, Grimes, Maxey, Beal. I mean, you got depth. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to see it to believe it. Jaden McDaniels. Like I said, I don't see the Minnesota Timberwolves giving up somebody of the caliber of Jaden McDaniels now that I feel like he's kind of turned a corner offensively. Jabari Smith is interesting because they could imagine a trade with the Rockets getting a star goes down and they can swoop in and snag somebody like Jabari Smith. Like, that would be fire. That would be fire for them. Portland Trailblazers, I've seen Zion rumors. Like a team of like Zion, Denny, Klingon, Scoot, Shaden. That'd be fun. Are you competing out west? Probably not, if I'm being honest. But I want him, if he does leave the Pelicans, I want him to go to a situation like Portland, filled with young talent. So a team that could use somebody of his skill set somewhere that he would feel wanted. So I feel like that's kind of the vibe going on in the Pelicans. Jonathan Kuminga, interesting. Sign and trade on the table there. Michael Porter Jr., man, they'd have some fun lineups. You'd have Denny at the 1, Sharp at the 2, MPJ at the 3, Tamari Kamara, Klingon. They could have some fun lineups going into the future with the Portland Trailblazers. I like the idea of all these guys. I think Zion is pretty attainable for them because they have some capital in the draft assets and the young talent as well. Kuminga sign and trade, how much is that sign and trade going to be worth? Michael Porter Jr., I guess you could do Jeremy Grant and a role guy, maybe Thibault or something with Michael Porter Jr. and you take on Zeke Najee's bad contract. I'm not mad at that because Michael Porter Jr. does fit your timeline still and provide you a much needed shooting on this team. Sacramento Kings, Derek White, Drew Holiday. Two guys they could for sure need because they need point guards. Drew Holiday obviously going to be a lot easier to obtain compared to Derek White. Like both fits, Marcus Smart could use a veteran guard that could kind of set the table for Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. They just need some kind of point guard, some kind of guy that can come in and really produce. San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, Giannis. Lauri Markkanen is interesting. I hate that contract. Gets very, really expensive for somebody that's a fringe all-star kind of guy. Cam Johnson, I love, especially if the Giannis thing falls through. Love them pivoting to get some more shooting and spacing around Wemby, Fox, and Castle. Toronto, Onyeka Okongwu. Just because I think the Atlanta Hawks are finally going to move off of Clint Capella, I think this is kind of off the table, especially with kind of the direction they're going in with more defensive versatility going into the future. Mark Williams, obviously, I've said we're going to see him a lot on this. Don't Connect. Why is Don't Connect on here so much? Is there something I'm not... Like, I know he almost got traded at the deadline, but, like, I feel like he's been on here a little bit more for a dream scenario article. I feel like he's on here a lot. He could be a good floor spacer for them, though, for sure. Utah. Reed Shepherd. I kind of like what you have with Collier, I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like what you have with Collier. Jabari Smith. It's like, what are you doing in Utah? Like, what's going on in Utah with Danny Ainge, man? Because they have a lot of nothing over there, right? They just have a lot of nothing over there in Utah. Nothing so concrete, nothing franchise changing. A lot of good young players, a lot of solid, playable, rotational young players. Nothing concrete, a whole lot of nothing in terms of franchise guys over there. And you already have Isaiah Collier. I think you should just roll with that. You stole him at the back half of the draft, and he was great for you on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, for you back in this year. I think you just keep Jabari Smith. It's like you already have Lauri Markkanen contract. Your front court's crazy. Jeremy Shohan, same thing. Like, your front court's already crazy unless you're getting off of Collins and Markkanen. Like, sure, but it's just like they need to figure out what they're doing this offseason. I'm going to be very upset if they don't figure out what's going on because they can't just keep on getting bad hoping for the number one franchise-changing pick, and it just never comes. Last team, Washington Wizards. Jay McDaniels, Minnesota Timberwolves. What do you have on your team that the Timberwolves would want? Nothing crazy. Like, they're not doing no Jordan Poole for Jaden McDaniels. Keontae George. Washington has do they say it in here? 6th overall pick. They fell. Just go get Kasparis. Why would you trade extra draft capital for Keontae George, right? Just go get Kasparis, more of a true point guard, true one. Pair him up with Bilal and Jordan Poole going forward, depending on if you want to keep Jordan Poole. You still have Marcus Smart. Like, you have Chris Middleton. Like, I'd rather just use your 6th overall pick on Kasparis. Unless you're going Kaman at your 6th overall pick. Then I'm like, okay, you need to pivot to go get a point guard. Maybe a 3-teamer goes down or Marcus Smart goes to a contending team. You get Keontae George. Utah gets whatever Utah wants. Like, something like that. But I just draft Kasparis. And then only reason I could say is maybe I like the idea of Kaman and Alex Sarr in that front court. Tari Eason, I love this. Love Tari Eason. Love his defensive versatility, his size. Think he would fit perfectly with Sarr, but Lau. They could get really good defensively with that tandem down the line in the future. That's interesting. That is interesting because Tari Eason, I know, is going to have to get paid here soon, and he's going to be expensive. Utah could have some money to spend, or maybe they could. It's kind of like this one up here where it's like some sort of trade goes down, you facilitate it, you get Jabari Smith Jr., you wrap in, steal him from a team or whatever. Kind of be a situation like that where Tari Eason is some kind of Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, big-time star trade, and Washington helps facilitate it. I think it would be Washington has the Suns pick, I think they have a Suns pick, if I looked at it the right way earlier, to where maybe Tari Eason was supposed to go to the Suns. You come in, help facilitate the trade. You give the Suns back their pick in exchange for Tari Eason. I wouldn't be mad at that because I like his fit on this team. But that is all for this article on 3 dream targets for every team going into this offseason. A lot of interesting ones, a lot of common ones, some fun ones, but overall pretty solid article. Only a couple of them where I'm just like, why is it on Connect on here like 8 times? But pretty solid article. I'll link this article in the description. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Barrel Talk Podcast. Hope to tune in to future episodes.